All right, guys. I am excited today because we are going to speak with a Texas super agent. She is the lead for one of the more successful teams in all of Texas real estate, serving the greater Houston area, the Move Me to Texas team. She's an absolute social media rock star with over 30,000 Instagram followers. And today we're going to try and figure out how she's doing all she's doing. Katie Day, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. I'm excited to dive in and pick your brain a little bit on your processes and your systems and all that good stuff. But I want to kind of start at the beginning, right, and talk about your story a little bit. So, you moved to Houston. I think it was 2011, and you were working full time out of the business. You earned an MBA in like 2012 to 2014. I think you got your license, your real estate license, shortly after that in 2016. Dove into the business full time a year later with your husband, actually started a team. What was that first year in the business like for you and your husband?
Absolute chaos. Yeah, I mean, I think that for us, a lot of the first year, mainly for me, because I kind of got in full time about 6 months before he did full time. But it was definitely chaotic, right? Like we were just taking whatever business we could. We were, driving all over town. There wasn't much by way of systems, right? And so
Sure.
since I got in him slightly before him, then like once he got in, he'd seen the mistakes I made. So he made slightly fewer mistakes than I did. And then in 2018, when we started the team, that's when we really started to like put pen to paper of like, this is how we want things to be done. This is how, we do buyer consultations. This is how we do different things. And I mean, there's still things that we're tweaking today, but um, yeah, that first year or two was definitely a lot of learning as we went.
And what did that decision look like to start a team? Because that's something a lot of agents don't necessarily know how to or want to take on because, with a team, you're not just worrying about yourself anymore, right? You're kind of coaching and managing other agents as well. So like what led towards that decision that you're like, okay, I don't want to just do this myself. I actually want a team underneath me.
Yeah, it was definitely stressful starting out, right? Because it was one of those things that as we brought people on, you want them to be successful, right? And so for us, it really was that we were out of time and bandwidth. We both were doing a lot of transactions, and like it was to the point that we were both working till 8 9 p.m. Right?
Sure,
We
sure.
weren't hanging out with friends on the weekends. We were showing homes. And so for the amount of listings we had and the amount of business we had, it just made sense to kind of have some additional leverage by way of people, and bring on some agents to the team and an admin and things like that to be able to better serve our clients because things were also falling through the cracks, right? And
Sure.
when you have more than a few deals happening at once, it's like, well, when does the option period or due diligence time frame end on this one? You're like, oh, is it Tuesday or is it Wednesday? I don't know, and so when that was happening more regularly, we knew we needed to change something in what we were doing in order to remain sane, hang out with our friends, have vacations and stuff like that.
Right. It's nice to be a real estate agent and make your own schedule and be your own boss, but it also is important to delegate some tasks too, or it's just going to consume every single second of your day, every hour of the week.
For sure.
So what does your like recruitment strategy look like as far as new agents go? Do you go to like real estate schools? Is it all just kind of like a word of mouth referral thing? Like how do you find good agents to join the team?
Yeah, great question. So we have a couple different things. First is that we have a running ad on Wise Hire,
Okay.
for showing agents, for transaction coordinators, and for agents, right? And so that's something that we always have ads up for, kind of the positions on our team to ensure that we do have resumes coming in. That does tend to attract newer agents, or less experienced agents versus the experienced ones, right? Because like if you're an experienced agent and you're looking for a new brokerage, generally speaking, you'll just kind of ask around like, hey, where are you at? Do you enjoy it there? You'll maybe put a post on Facebook, you'll send a few DMs to people and things like that. So it's more new agents that are looking at like job boards, right? Or Indeed or LinkedIn for like a new brokerage or for a brokerage to hang their license.
Sure.
Outside of that, the next biggest one would be social media, and posting on social. I'll get DMs from agents that are saying like, oh, hey, when's your next training program? Or, are you currently looking to add more agents to the team? And then the third would be agents that are currently on our team that bring in other people that they've met in a CE class or just from being out and about.
Very cool. And how large is the team currently?
So right now we have 15 agents plus my husband and I, and then we have 3 admin staff, and then we have a videographer. So 17, 21.
Very cool.
My
I mean
math's right.
that
I don't know.
that I think that sounds about right. We'll go with that. Math was never my forte. Actually,
Uh, you know,
you don't need to be great at math in real estate. You just have to know how to compute a few little things on the commission side.
yeah, a couple percentages.
Right, exactly. So that's a big team. I mean, that's really impressive to have built out a team that large and really what isn't that long of a time period. I mean, you kind of, you've been in the industry for for under 10 years. To build out a team that large, I think is super impressive. And when you're sitting across from these, let's say like a new agent that doesn't have much in real estate experience. What are you looking for? Are you looking for maybe some sales experience? Or are you just kind of looking for a good attitude and some enthusiasm?
All of the above. No,
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is, people that are hungry. We found that the people that work out the best as far as agents on the team are those that have either the hunger, to get out there and kind of grind and work and make money, and they're competitive and they want to be at the top of the list, right? Or that they just need that, right? Like they are the breadwinner for their family, or they need to support their children or whatever it may be. So that hunger is difficult to determine because everyone says that they want to make lots of money and they want to sell lots of houses, but it's not always actually the case.
Sure.
I think people that are humble, especially in this business, there's a ton of ego, and so when you meet with people, I want people that are going to be collaborative and are going to share and bring ideas to the table and things like that, and not just think that like they're the greatest thing ever, right? Because we are a team. And then people that are coachable, right? And so, kind of along the same lines as like not having an ego, and being kind of humble. I want them to, be coachable and have, be open-minded to, constructive feedback and things like that.
Yeah, super important, I think, to be coachable really in any business, but especially when you're joining a team. And I'm curious, do you do a lot of the coaching one-on-one? Like, do you meet with these agents on a regular basis to discuss their strategies and their tactics? Or are you more talking about you outsource the coaching to like a Tom Ferry type program?
Yeah, so I mean, we are part of Tom Ferry, and so
Mhm.
we do have group coaching, and the team gets coaching as well as I get coached as well. But I mean, we do ongoing training and script practice and role play, and we'll go over different things kind of as needed. When things come up in
Sure.
transactions. And things like that. So we do a lot of ongoing training and script practice and stuff like that.
Very cool. And do you do anything to just kind of like feed into like the group morale, the community sense of the team? Like, I don't know, ongoing events, things like that, or like a weekly meeting? Like, how do you really make it feel like it's a team?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely a high accountability team. So we have a weekly meeting in person.
Okay.
We have a huddle on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays where we get on Google Meets, either on your phone or on your computer,
Hmm.
and kind of do a little inspirational or motivational thing in the morning. Everyone kind of reports what their day looks like, and commitments
Nice.
for the day or commitments for the week, things like that. And then, again, we have script practice and role play on Mondays and Thursdays, different training on Thursdays, and then the coaching calls with the team. And then outside of that, we also do the like just like monthly, we do a monthly top producer lunch. We'll do happy hours for like winners of sales contests and things like that. And then just like team like, activities and stuff as well.
Very cool. And I love the accountability portion of that scenario. I think, at least in a lot of teams that I see, there's not like a ton of accountability going on. It's just kind of like there's agents underneath a rainmaker who feeds them leads, and they've got to close a certain percentage of those leads. And that's kind of where it ends.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's really enough, not for a super high functioning team that's going to be at the top of a market. Are there any like KPIs that you have most of your agents track, whether it's like outgoing calls or conversations or things of that nature?
Yeah, so we use Sisu, that's
Okay.
tied to Follow Up Boss, and so that helps us to track, and so that'll track, calls and conversations and texts and things like that. And then they manually will enter in, other things as far as like DMs and CMAs and home shown and stuff like that. And so that helps us from a management perspective to be able to see like, okay, if Brett makes 1,000 phone calls in a month but talks to 0 people, like clearly you're not calling at the right time, right? Or if
Right.
you talk to 500 of those people but you set 0 appointments, then clearly like you're just not saying appropriate things on the phone call. And so it helps us to be able to kind of train to the gaps and see what that looks like for each agent. And everyone sets their goals for the month, right? As far as like, okay, hey, I want to sell 5 homes next month. Well, that's great. Like, how many calls are you going to make? How many open houses are you going to do? What does that look like? And everyone kind of sets their own goals for those. So as the year goes on, it's kind of like, your goal for the year was 30 and you sold 2 homes and it's, June 20th or, mid July or whatever. Like, what are we going to do to adjust, what
Yeah.
your actions are, and then potentially adjust your goals too.
Sure. I love that. And I think that's huge too, right? I think it's important to set certainly ambitious goals at the beginning of the year. But if it's June or July and we're nowhere near on track to hit those goals, it's okay to adjust. Let's
Yeah,
adjust those goals to a level that we actually can hit this year. And then come 2024, sure, we can shoot for the stars again. But I think it's important to have a goal in front of us that's actually attainable, because that's going to keep us motivated more so than something that we know we're not going to get to.
for sure, for sure. And that's, I mean, we reevaluate kind of every month, and everyone sets their monthly goals. So like sometimes, you're no longer on that path to what you thought you were going to be at in January, but you're still hitting each month of like, this is the goal, and then these are the actions I'm going to take and the commitments I'm going to make to try to get to that.
Right, right. And I hope no one on your team actually has 500 conversations and sets no appointments. I hope that
I mean,
it,
you'd have to fall into it though. Like, if you're talking to 500 people, like you'd have to sell some houses.
right. I think at that point, if you go 0 for 500, it's time for a new industry.
Yeah,
It might be time to leave the team.
yeah, yeah. That's I haven't had that yet. But if I have someone that makes that many phone calls and has that many conversations, like I would be very happy. But
Sure,
we'll see.
sure. Now, I'm sure you did in the beginning of your journey, do you still personally do phone prospecting to expireds, FISBOs, circle prospects, prospecting, that sort of thing?
Yeah. So at this point for me, not as often. Most of the leads I'm getting are other past clients, or my personal sphere,
Hmm.
or referrals from them or referrals from agents. So it's more so like, you know, calling people that are slightly warmer, right? we
Hmm.
do we do some circle prospecting around listings, especially if it's a unique listing, or something that we think is going to take a little bit more effort to sell, right? There's lower price point homes and things like that in Houston, like, those sell pretty quickly, right? But some of them we know, like, hey, this one's going to be a little bit tougher, right? So we'll sometimes do circle dialing and things like that, but like generally speaking, for me personally, not as much today. No.
Nice. So you've really just kind of built up a really powerful sphere, past clients, things of that nature, people within the community that are consistently keeping your pipeline full. Just curious, what do you do to actively build out that database in that sphere? Are you throwing a lot of community events, or is it really just mostly just friends and family and people you've already done deals with?
Yeah, so we try to do about 6 client events per year.
Great.
And so that's something that I think is great, not only to be involved in the community, because we do them in my farm, right? So we do them
Mhm.
in my local farm. But when you're reaching out to your past clients and your sphere and your people, it's like you're letting them know about the event. You're then texting them if they didn't pick up the phone call. They're getting an Evite email. They're getting reminders from the Evite. You're then calling them again. You're texting them, and all of that's happening like before the event even happens, right? And then if they come, you're obviously seeing them there. And then post event, we normally send out like a thank you email with like the video recap and stuff like that. We try to have some sort of charity component to a lot of our events, so we'll do like a food drive or back to school supply drive or things like that, to where we are giving back. So then that's another touch point of like, hey, we donated X amount of pounds of food or X amount of dollars to the food bank or whatever it may be. So those are a great opportunity to have multiple touch points. And then just the usual CMAs and conversations, and continue to update people about their equity and stuff like that, in addition to the events.
Nice. I think that that's really smart. To have 6 client events a year is certainly more than most agents are doing. I think if most agents listening are doing one, they're probably ahead of the curve. But I think 6 is pretty cool because, like you said, it's a tremendous opportunity to reach out to your clients, via text, via email, even via phone call, whatever it is,
Hmm. Hmm.
multiple times, inviting them to an event that not only is going to be fun, but it's actually for a good cause. And that's going to be another driver for people to actually attend. I think people are much more motivated to attend events where, it is for a good cause as opposed to just for fun. I think that that's really smart. So is that kind of like the main formula for your client cultivation? Throw 6 events a year, invite everyone to these events through multiple avenues, but then also keep people up to date on their property values. Is that pretty much like the go-to as far as like client cultivation?
Yeah, I mean, we have like the action plan or whatever in the CRM that has a certain amount of touches per year. That
Sure.
you're calling in and catching up and sending the birthday cards and home anniversary cards and stuff like that. So all of those like dates are flagged in the CRM. But I think the basis of it, yeah, is definitely the client events, and then we try to do at least 2 CMAs per year for every past client.
Got it. Got it. I know you mentioned farm earlier, the word farm, right? And I think a
Yeah.
lot of agents could certainly do well to actually focus on a farm, like a number of homes that they're really targeting. How many homes would you say are in your farm, so to speak, currently?
Yeah, so we have a few that we work, and so one is the neighborhood that I lived in for about 5 6 years, and so that is about a 2,000 home area in a
Okay.
specific zip code, and then we have another one of my agents lives in a community that she farms, and that's about 600 homes, and so we kind of just fell into those being like that was where we lived.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start, right? That's your
Yeah,
community.
for
These are
sure.
the people that you're seeing at the post office, at the coffee shop, at the grocery store. Why not just target those people? It makes almost too much sense.
Yeah.
Are you hitting these homes with like direct mail on a monthly basis, or digital ads, or like what's the strategy directed towards the farm?
Yeah, for sure. So we do the most consistent thing we do is direct mail and hit them with a monthly market update. And then we do any just listed, just sold. We always send those to those particular zip codes. We do them on a lot of our listings or most of our listings, but like we definitely do them to the same mailing list for those zip codes when we have listings nearby. And then we not as regularly have, we'll do the kind of geo targeted ads as far as like a brand play. But normally that's just to kind of like continue to put the same content in front of the same people. It's not really like a lead funnel or anything like that.
Got it. Very cool. So the market update, once a month, sounds like it's really like the cornerstone of the strategy. What's in the market update? Just like some statistics and recent solds. Like what are you really putting on that mailer?
Yeah, so for some of them, for the one neighborhood that my agent lives in, like there's not as much activity. For mine, it's the entire zip code, so there's a lot more activity. And so we break down in both of them like new construction and resale. What sold, what the average price point was, how long it took to sell. What the at least for the zip code I'm in, like what the new construction looks like, as far as how much of the available inventory is new construction. And just then we have like a little like state of, the kind of anecdotal stuff. We put listings in there if we have a featured listing. And yeah, that's about it.
Nice. Is there like a QR code or just a phone number they can reach you at? Like, how does like them contacting you through the mailer work?
Yeah, so we've got a QR code that goes to like a home value, request. And so that's one. I'm normally a fan of like one CTA, but it also has just like a contact block, right, with the contact info.
Sure.
So all of that is in there as well.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. So we touched on it earlier a little bit. Social media certainly is a place where you're thriving. I mean, to build a following on Instagram of over 30,000 followers, I think for anyone out there who's trying to build a brand, realizes that's not easy to do. It takes a lot of hard work, consistency. And just curious, like at what point in your journey, like did you make social media a focal point?
So, I mean, it's always been something that I knew was important. So I've always done it. I think it hasn't always been to the level that it is today, right? Like, if you scroll back to like 2016, it's all like just listed, just sold, and it like, they're like made in like Microsoft Paint. They look like crap, but so it's definitely adjusted over the years as to
Yeah.
like what like content mixes and way more video and higher quality video and things like that. But it was something that I knew, you know, was important, right, in order to build a brand and important in order to, you know, uh, stay top of mind, right, with like past clients and Sphere and other agents as well.
Yeah, excellent. And it's certainly working for you. I mean, you've really built a brand that's very well known throughout the industry, I'm sure, in Houston and in Texas in general. What does your process look like though? Like, where do the ideas come from? How often do you script? How often do you shoot? Like, who's posting these videos for you? Like, what's the A to Z Katie Day social media process look like?
Yeah. So kind of, Reader's Digest version of it. Like the beginning of it comes from like consuming content and then just like regular transactions, right? And so I have a note in my phone that anytime I see a content idea or I have a conversation that spurs a content idea, I'll write that idea down in the phone. And so, a lot of that again is just like regular real estate business, right? Either
Hmm.
my transactions or hearing things from the team of things that they're going through. I'm like, oh, hey, I should do a video on this, right? And so I'll write down the idea. Other places is like, the Real Deal, Keeping Current Matters, Wall Street Journal, like different, CNBC, like different news articles and sources, right? I'll read an article about Texas. Google Alerts is another great place. I have alerts set up for like, Houston real estate, downtown Houston, different neighborhoods. And then I get a daily email with like the top headlines for those keywords.
I love
And
that.
so that'll help with like content ideas. Um, and then I'll normally shoot probably every 2 to 3 weeks with my videographer. And I'll basically go, I'll have a couple changes of clothes. And then we sit down and I'll shoot, 4 or 5 videos and I'll change my shirt. And I'll do 4 or 5 more videos. Then I'll change, my pants. Then I'll do 4 or 5 more and I'll change my shoes, and I'll just change out random things on my outfit. Right.
Yeah, I love
What's
it.
great is like almost all of my shirts, have either some sort of branding or logo. So it's not like I have 45 different shirts,
Sure.
I've got like 4 different iterations of polo and t-shirt.
I love it.
And so yeah, I'll just shoot a couple videos, change a shirt, and continue to do that. And then, he'll edit them and upload them into a Google Drive. And then I basically will then download and post those, throughout the next few weeks or months. So, normally I try to shoot 20 or more videos with him just so that then I have content like for the next month. Cause I don't always post every day. Some days it is every day. Some days it's twice a day. Sometimes it's once a day,
Sure.
and so it allows me to have content for the next, month ish or so.
Nice. I love that. And just curious, before you get together with the videographer, like in between the ideas and the shoot, do you sit down and flesh those ideas out into scripts, or do you just kind of show up and kind of and shoot from the hip, so to speak?
Yeah, so some of them are a little bit more scripted than others, right? Like especially ones that have like stats or things like that, right? Because it's like if you don't think about what they are, like then you're just kind of rambling about. You're like, oh, there's 28,000, and then you're like, oh, well, what does that, how would a consumer hear that, right?
Right, right.
So some of them I do need to script out a little bit into thoughts or kind of nuggets of information. But for some of them, it's just like I'll write down, a topic or if I see a video by someone else, like I try to not like write down exactly what Brett says, because then it's like then I'm awkwardly reading what you said, right? But if I
Hmm.
see a video that you make and I'm like, oh, I like that topic, or that's a good topic, or that happened to me recently too, I'll write down at least the idea and maybe like a bullet point or two. So like in looking at my, thing, it's like, I'll have why sellers should demand professional photography, and like that was all I had for the subject line. But then like for others it'll be like, I need to find one that I've scripted more. um how to use your current house as a rental, and then I have like bullet points. I have like, if you've owned a property for a few years, you probably have a lot of equity. Then I have written down what is equity, question mark. Then I have this is how some investors are able to continue to buy more properties, right? And so
Nice.
like those were the three things that I wanted to get as far as like, you know, using your current home and turning it into a rental. And if I would have just like kind of rambled about it, I might have gotten to those points, but like I wanted to have those specific things like be the meat of the video.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Like some you're pretty comfortable just kind of talking, off the cuff, and other ones need to be bulleted out a little bit more if you really need to hit on those specific points. But I think just the cadence of meeting with the videographer every 2 weeks is kind of the key there, right? Because you're meeting every 2 weeks, you're making 15 to 20 videos every 2 weeks. You've always got fresh content in the funnel ready to shoot out there to multiple channels. And it's that sort of consistency that allows you to build an audience over time. If you're releasing 20 videos this month and then none next month, that's not going to get it done. So I really think that the secret sauce there is just getting together with a professional videographer, of course, if you can afford it within your budget, or just getting together with yourself and shooting and blocking off, how often or how much time do you block off? I'm curious, like 3 to 4 hours for a shoot?
Yeah, it depends. I like if I just shot last week, but I have a couple good ideas and I want to shoot again this week, then like maybe it's an hour and a half, right? I think the longest we've ever shot has been like 3-ish hours,
Okay.
probably. So it really just varies. And then
Yeah.
there's the times that we get together and I'm just like, we shoot like how many of our videos, and I'm like, I'm done. We're done for the day. I'll see you later. Like this is it because I
Right.
have nothing else, So
Crushed it and I'm out of here.
crushed it, or it's like, or it's crushing me, right? It's just like, this is not working. So like, rather than continuing to take you through this, like, I'll just let you leave.
Right. Something got crushed. It's either you
Yeah,
or it, and we're out of here.
exactly, exactly.
I got it. I got it. Very cool. And curious, do you get a lot of leads directly through Instagram, like DMs, like people saying, love your videos, I'm looking to sell my house? Like, is it ever that simple?
I mean, yes, sometimes, but sometimes it's a little bit more nuanced. Like the last transaction that I recall directly from Instagram, it was someone that like we had done a neighborhood spotlight at a juice place that they went to frequently, so they started following me, right? And then they messaged me once and just said like, "Hey, I'd love to know more about what's happening in my neighborhood." Right? And so I was like, "Awesome! Like, what's the address of your house? I can send you over like just a general idea of what 4 bedrooms are selling for in your neighborhood." So I sent that over. And then a couple of days later, I was like, "Hey, did you get it? Like, what were your thoughts?" And she's like, "Well, I'm thinking that like I might want to sell, or I might want to like move to a new home if I could." I was like, "All right, well, like let's meet up in person. Like I can narrow down the CMA and provide to you with what actually your property could sell for, not just like this is what everything's selling for." And let's go from there. And then like, we met and she's like, "All right, well, let's sign the listing agreement." And like, and it definitely like snowballed more because I was just like, "All right, I'll come by, take a look at your house and put you in my database and then,
Right.
see what happens." And then they bought and sold. Right. And so it's sometimes more nuanced. Of course, like then I'll get DMs from people that are just like, "Hey, I'm trying to sell. This is my address. Like, can you meet?" And then you'll get some where it's like people will like DM you, and we'll have conversation, but the actual like sale itself or action doesn't happen for a very long time.
Got
So
it.
it's all over the board, I'd say.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that, of course, it's not just going to be everyone saying, "Hey, come list my house. I like your,
I'd
I,
love that.
right." That would be sweet, wouldn't it? But that's sadly not the case. It's always going to be a little more nuanced with a couple more steps to take, but it's all, providing value, which is kind of what we
Yeah.
love to do. So curious, I think a lot of agents or just business owners would see someone like yourself who's built a really successful business in a relatively short amount of time. And they just kind of wonder like what's that look like on a day to day? Like, do you even have an average day? And if you do, like, what's your average day look like?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's like, as I kind of said, like we have like weekly things with the team, right? And so there's kind of each week ish, I have, somewhat similar of a week, right? Just because we do have, daily calls with the team and weekly meetings and different trainings throughout the week and stuff like that. Outside of that, a lot of my time is dedicated to my transactions and the clients that I'm helping to sell their properties and things like that. So I'd say that's probably about like 20% of my time goes toward that. Probably another 30 to 40% goes to the team. It's 20, that's 60%. And then another like 10 to 15% is probably like content, and then the rest is like different stuff like this, right? And like speaking engagements or podcast stuff or travel, right? for
Sure.
for conferences or events or things like that. So it definitely depends. Like later this week I'll be out of town for an event, right? So like this Monday through Wednesday is like packed with calls with agents and podcasts and different stuff with the team and things like that. So it's like pretty back to back to back. But a week that I'm in town all week, then it's definitely more time for meetings and listings and stuff like that.
Nice, nice. And are you more of like a to-do lister or like a time blocker? Like, how do you organize your day? Is everything in your calendar blocked off and color coded, or do you just work off of a list?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, everything is is in my calendar, right? And all of my friends know. If we're talking about like grabbing happy hour or like going and getting coffee, like if they're not sending me a calendar invite, like I'm sending them one, right? Just
Right.
if it's not my calendar, like I'll literally forget, right? And so that's before we were shooting this, I'm like, okay, let me check my calendar again. All right, we've got this at 1:30, and then I've got another call at 2:30, another call at 3. Okay, yeah, no, we're good. All right, I'm still on track, right? And
Yeah.
so pretty much everything goes into my calendar. I do have like the little sticky notes on my computer background, and I use my notes app on my phone because that reads from like my phone to my computer as far as like a to-do list or writing things down. But honestly, like a lot of the time I would just say like, okay, I have a break at 3:30 p.m. Let me drop in there like my to-do list of the things that I need to get done you know at that time. So
Got it.
it's pretty much everything goes in the calendar.
For sure. If you want to get coffee with Katie Day and catch up, you better send her a calendar invites
Yeah.
because
Otherwise, I'll forget. Honestly, like it just
right, because she's got a lot going on. She's got 18 agents that are asking her, questions on a weekly basis. So you better be in that calendar. Just super cool stuff there. I'm just curious, like, is there anything that you squeeze into that calendar, like habit wise, whether it's meditation or working out or reading, that you feel kind of keeps you in peak state and allows you to keep taking such massive action?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think the one of the biggest things for me is working out.
Okay,
I work out pretty much every morning. Not 7 days a week, but like 5 to 6 days a week ish. Just kind of depending on the week, and so that's something that I like to do in the morning. Just as the day goes on, it seems to get harder to do. And it's
totally
really that
agree.
like eat the frog thing, right? Getting it done in the morning. It's generally the worst part of my day because it normally sucks pretty bad, and then it's like the rest of the day is a little bit easier. I tend to make better food choices, right? And I like kind of contradictory, but I generally have more energy, right, when I work out, um, you know, regularly.
Yeah, for sure. And I think most of the high performers I speak on this show, whether they're agents or otherwise, I mean, they do put an emphasis on exercise, not only the physical benefits, but just the mental benefits. I mean, you really get those happy chemicals percolating, your ability to focus goes up, your overall outlook on the day and your ability
Yeah.
to accomplish things really goes up if you get that morning workout in. You seem like work ethic is probably one of your superpowers, Katie. I feel like you definitely do not have an issue with working your tail off on a regular basis. But I'm curious because I know a lot of agents and a lot of small business owners, they wake up sometimes and they feel a bit of a resistance to work. They don't necessarily feel like doing all the things they know they need to do today or whatever day it is. Do you ever feel that resistance? And if you do, like, what do you do to push through it?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely pops up, here or there. I'd be lying if I said it didn't,
Yeah,
right? But I mean, I think that when for me, it's kind of like are you interested in this? Or are you committed to this? And like, in choosing to be, a real estate agent and a team leader and the different kind of roles that I have right throughout the day, it's like I'm committed to doing these things and I'm committed to showing up for other people, right? And so whether it's things that are for me or things that are for other people, like I said that this is me and I need to do it, right? And so um for the most part it's just like you kind of have to be like, all right, like get over yourself and do it. So I don't really have like a secret hack or like an affirmation that I say to myself or whatever, but it's just like, hey, this is who you want to be, and this is whatever. So like, you know like get it done.
well, I think that's powerful in itself. Remind yourself, like, this is what you wanted. This is who you
Yeah.
want to be. So if you say that you want to be this person, then you've got to get these things done today that you promised yourself and others that you're going to get done.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff, Katie. I think we crammed a lot of value in these 35 minutes. I know you're a busy lady, and I know you've got a different color on your calendar in 10 minutes. So I think we're going to wrap it up. But just curious for the listeners, how do they follow you? How do they keep up with everything you've got going on?
Yeah, best place is on Instagram. My handles Move Me to Texas, MoveMeToTX, and so that's the best place to connect for sure.
There you go. Make sure to follow Katie. She releases absolutely fire content on the reg. And for everyone out there, I appreciate you being here. If you have a moment, we always appreciate a review or a rating on whatever platform you're listening. If you don't, no worries. Just come back next week. And until then, guys, get out there and do big things.